Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So once again, the portal is alight with the lovely purple hue, meaning it is once again time to pull some shards. We, of course, are in pursuit of the rare champion from the champion chase in for the sake of the Yukimasa Demon of Ice fusion going on right now. And because I was sick with the flu for the past week and a half or so, I didn't actually cover this champion, but I do think he's kind of like, A tier, B tier as far as quality. Regardless, I go for every single fusion. You guys know this or should know this by now. So it doesn't really matter what the kit is. I always go for the fusion, so we're going for the fusion nonetheless. But yeah, I think he's okay. I don't have any immediate plans to use him on my account. He's kind of like in the Sanguine Maria camp, where if they're useful in some future content, they're just available to be turned on. I mean, I do like the AoE freeze. Having attack-based champions with CC is uniquely good for the Cursed City. I know Force Affinity is typically a trouble spot as well. For me, on my account, I just don't have that many Force Affinity champions, so having just another attack champion with CC could be good for that. So, to say the least, I'm interested in having him on my account and using him as need be in the future. So let's take a quick look here at the champion chase itself. So we're waiting until the last second here, unfortunately, but that's just kind of circumstances, but we have 2 hours to go. That's fine. So the milestone here is actually at 3,500, which I think is a record. Usually the fragments or the rare are at 3,000 points. So I think the 3,500 here might actually be the highest to date. And so that could be indicative of future milestones, but it could also just be the high point, and other fusions in the future will be lower. So we'll just kind of have to play that by ear. But nonetheless, that is our goal here. We're going to get out to the 3,500. In fact, our goal is actually to get to 4,500 because we're going to go for the legendary tome. So in order to make this a lot easier, obviously we're going to be pulling some void shards, but we're going to be a little bit efficient here as well. So we have 3 of the fusion epics ready to go, or ready to fuse, I should say. And so we can get 750 points for that. It's going to cost us some silver as well, of course. And then I did, of course, if you saw my last video, I did go for Hilvi from the deck, the Yuletide deck of fate. So the guaranteed offering of that champion. So that's a legendary for another 500 points, meaning that we start off the champion chase with 1,250 points, which is a great place to be. And then of course we'll do the rest in void shards. Now I also do have I have 1 relic keeper and I have 1 broadmaw, which I could use, but I have a decent amount of void shards, as we'll take a look at in a second here, and I'm in a mood to pull some shards, so I'm more willing to use my shards in this particular instance. But I do have these guys waiting in the wings if need be, probably in the future. I typically use these more so for like 2x sacreds, because sacreds are just harder to stockpile and use compared to voids. But yeah, so there we go. We got those 3 fusion epics completed, and then we have Hilvi as well. So there is our bulk start of 250 points. I think in the champion chase, as we just saw, I think I was at like 300 points. A lot of that's from like the champion training that was happening a few days ago. So getting the rares from the campaign and using mystery shards, of course. But so I think we should be at 1,500-ish, let's call it that. And that's basically where we're going to be starting. So popping over to the shard tab, let's take a look at the overall shard count at the moment. So we have 389 on the Ancients, 224 on the Voids, which of course we'll be dipping into today, 35 on the Primals, and then 51 on the Sacred. So yes, 2x on Epic and Legendaries from Void Shards. And I did purposefully wait until Sunday so that I don't have the 10x's, because I have Tormund from his Titan event 2 years ago, and then I got Lady Noelle from her fusion last year. So even though the odds are relatively slim that you're going to get the 10x champion, they're higher for void shards for sure compared to non-void shards, but nonetheless I don't want to run the risk of getting a duplicate versus getting someone potentially new on my account. So that was my opt to go for or wait until Sunday once the 10x's are over. In terms of my mercy, we can pop up my mercy tracker on the screen here, and if you want to link to the copy of the spreadsheet, you can find that in the description box down below. But focusing in on the void section, we can see that we're kind of near the beginning. We're pretty far from mercy, so we're basically at mercy, so to speak, of RNGs to see if we get a legendary today, but no guarantees one way or the other. And we're probably not going to be pulling that many shards anyways, because we're not trying to go super far. We're just trying to get to 4,500 from roughly 1,500, so about 3,000 points. That should be somewhere between 20 to 20 to 30 voids, maybe 40 worst case if we get some really, really bad RNG or really bad epic rates. And speaking of epic rates, the epics I'm looking for the most, and believe it or not, yes, I am still looking for some void epics. I want as many copies of Whisper as possible. I'd like to fully empower my primary Whisper and then also start working on empowering my secondary Whisper. And then I'd still like copies of Basher. I think my Basher is still baseline. He's not empowered at all. And I do use him on a daily basis as one of my lockout champions. Fabian, just because of affinity, I tend to prefer Basher for like, auto fights, but Fabian for more tailored fights, I do use him as well. And then of course, if we happen to get a legendary number, or my top 3 are Queen of Hearts, Marichka, and Sulfurion. So without further ado, let's get right into the action here. We've got hopefully enough space. We got 40 slots. That should do it. We got tons of cash, and hopefully we've got some pretty decent luck. Odds are slim, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. And yeah, let's just dive right in and see what we can get. So I do expect to get a lot of rares, but hopefully we can get a decent amount of epics along the way, just for the sake of getting some points. So 1 epic, hopefully we can get 2 in the 10 pop. No, we can only get 1. All right, 800. So 1500 plus 1800, or plus 800 puts us at 2300. So just about 2000-ish points to go. Eurogrim, super good, epic. He's kind of like a mini Bad Alcazar with the AoE poisons. AoE heals. He doesn't cleanse, of course, but he's a really solid poison champion. Really useful for progression, but also useful faction wars and those like niche tournaments, just for like epics only dragon or something like that. Ragnar Gold Gleam, by comparison, though, is a relatively underwhelming champion. However, he is somewhat useful if you pull him early enough on. He could be a decent clan boss style champion here, based on decreased defense and weaken, increased attack on himself, and the leech, etc. He can be okay, but he's not super great. Another 800 puts us at 3100 points. If we can get a nice like double epic pull, then we might be done in the 30, but worst case we go out to the 40, and it's not really the end of the world. Hopefully we don't get a bunch of rares, though. That would not be good for the sake of points, and it's looking like that's gonna be the case. Unlucky. So 500 points puts us at 3600 points. So if we only get 1 epic, 800 will leave us a little bit shy, which would be ideal. We started off with an epic. Hopefully we can get 1 more, just 1 more epic in the 10 pop, and we are done in 40 voids. Can we get 1 more? Okay, there we go. All right. Good enough. We'll take it. Actually, I do need another just a CR here for the next Broadmaw. So that's another Broadmaw for the... No, sorry. That's another Relic Keeper for the future. So I actually ran out of this rare champion. So I did need him for a future champion chase, I guess. And then Skull Crown, we'll take it. Some empowerment. Prundar, not really that good of a champion, honestly. But, strength and continuous heal on a fortune cooldown, not great. Chance to provoke. I don't even think it's 100% chance of placing the provoke. So relatively underwhelming champion. But Skull Crown, super good. Double AoE, good in a stun set, good with Sinesha, good as a early game nuker, but also late game just kind of plug and play in certain niche content areas. So we clutched it out just at the end there with 40 voids required to get to the 4,000 points. So we should have our legendary tome as well as our rare champion. So sweet. Success and rewards are confirmed. Their Immortal Soulstone as well is pretty nice. But yeah, so the fusion for me is not yet done. I still need to finish up the Dungeon Divers in the next 2.5 hours. Fun times. But yeah, I'm just going to be dumping a bunch of gems and energy to crank out this one, but that will be the last turret that I need. And then I typically wait until the last day of the fusion because historically speaking, they run like a champion training something or other on the last day or two. It's not a guarantee, but it's pretty typical. And so I just want to get more bang for my buck instead of just going to the tavern and throwing a bunch of brews in them and then having a champion training come up. And I could have got a bunch of points from doing that during champion training. In this case, it would be a tournament. I think the last champion training we had was an event, so the next thing should be a tournament. But nonetheless, we have the last almost the last 4 fusion rares, and so we should be able to wrap that up anyways. Yeah, if it doesn't happen to be the case, I could be wrong that there's not a champion training tournament coming up in the next couple of days, then I would just go to the tavern and just brew them up and not waste energy in the campaign. So either way, we'll get him done in the next couple of days. So yeah, that is going to do it for today's summoning session. I guess the red dot in the index should be Hilvi there, so that's not anything surprising. We got our guaranteed champion. Super excited to use her specifically for me, or more so for me in PvE. I'm thinking hard mode faction wars. She's probably going to be my primary reviver, so I'm excited to test her out, build her for that. And of course, runner with Tormund. I think they make a lot of sense together for obvious reasons. And then as far as today's summons go, nothing really to write home about, but I guess the highlight is like the duplicate Skull Crown is another level of empowerment, so I think she will become a +2, apparently, +2. So still waiting for more Whispers, still waiting for Basher. Like I said, my Basher is still a baseline. I'd like to get him to +1 and beyond. That is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you got from your summons, assuming you pulled your voids as well, or some voids as well, for the sake of the champion chase for the fusion. As always, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to hit that like button down below. Really does help out the channel. And feel free to hit the subscribe button down below if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.